Hi there, Alice here. I just wanted to talk to you today about our children when we get separated or we go through some difficult, uncomfortable times with our partners. Many of my clients that I talk to, even though they're not breaking up at that particular moment, they are having real difficulties being happy in their relationship. And one of the reasons why they're not breaking up is because they say that they need to stay together for the sake of the children. And this in itself can be very, very damaging for the children, because even if you and your partner, husband, aren't really communicating well, even the silence, the children pick up on. They pick up on the atmosphere, and that's without the arguments, and maybe some people have fights and stuff like that. Even, children know when they're not in a happy environment. Even if, like I said, you and your partner are trying to be amicable, trying to be pleasant, there's always going to be those niggles, and they can just sense it. If you're not loving towards your partner, and your partner's not loving towards you, then the children see this. Why is mummy like this? Why is daddy like this? You're giving the love to the children, both of you, and the children are giving it back to you, but somehow you and your partner aren't. And that's just confusing messages for the children. So it is really important that you really look deeper into this. And trust me, your children will be a lot happier and will understand better if you guys do separate. What better really than to have two happier parents living separate? And I know that sounds quite scary, quite worrying, taboo subjects of children coming from a broken family. That was what it was labelled as back in the day, and maybe still is a little bit what society labels it as. But as far as I'm concerned, and I have been an experience of this with my children, is that I'd rather have two happy children with parents that live separate, and they can spend time with both parents, being happier, seeing that their mum is happy and their dad is happy, in whatever environment and situation that they're in. I'm happy being single, their dad is happy in another relationship. So the children get to see that, as opposed to having the arguments, like I said, maybe worse in the environment, and even the silence is quite damaging, really. And when I was going through this 11 years ago, my boys were 4 years old, nearly 4 and 5. And I sort of, I was going through such deep emotions, you can imagine. I didn't really, they knew that Daddy wasn't living with us anymore, and they would see him every Sunday to start with, and then we did it alternate weekends. I didn't really speak to them about it because I thought they were too young, and I also thought they'll be fine. As long as I'm fine, they'll be fine, which obviously has an element to it. And also, at the time I worked in childcare. I've been working in childcare for 20 odd years, so I had the experience of teaching childcare qualifications. I would teach mature women to work in nursery settings and stuff like that, and I'd go into a classroom and deliver practical sessions. And this is really strange. Talk about, do we always practice what we preach? But I used to do sessions on selecting really good reading books for children, ensuring it was promoting equality, discrimination and stuff like that. And I really loved my book collection. And a few of the books that I have in my collection, which I still have now, I used to share these with my students so that they could go on and maybe share them with their manager in the nursery settings, their teacher in the nursery schools, and just promote these books that are out there, because there are some amazing children's storybooks just helping us get through some of these difficult times. And as a parent, if you find it difficult to communicate these things, then why not do it with a storybook? However, although I promoted this through my lessons to my students and had these books at home in my little box ready to put into the car to travel to my classes, never once did I read these books to my own boys. And don't ask me why I didn't do it. I think I was so emotional, so relieved that the relationship had come to its end. I sort of hadn't put this into perspective that this is what I need to do for my children. I know that's bizarre, and I was doing it as a job, and I wasn't bringing my work home with me at all. Bearing in mind also, I had not been working for a few years because I had time off with the children when they were young. So that's probably why, actually. Yeah, that makes sense now. I think when it all happened, I probably didn't have these books. It was probably couple of years later when I invested in these books. However, it still wouldn't have been too late to read to the boys. So anyway, I remember driving to school to drop the children off and then going off to work, and we were quite early outside the school. The gates weren't open, and I said to the boys, oh, let's read a story. I said, I've got some books in the back of the car, because obviously I was going on to do my teaching lesson. And then lo and behold, I brought out this one, Dinosaur's Divorce, and we started reading it. And it wasn't until I'd read this to the boys, and I don't think I read word for word because there's quite a few pictures, quite a lot of text. It was literally, I was scheming through it, and just showing them the pictures and just giving them a little summary of what it was. And afterwards, my 5-year-old said, oh yeah, wow, Mum, you know, I get it now. And that was so important, that he actually realised what was happening in his life with his parents. Because children straight away think if you and your partner are arguing, fighting, don't love each other anymore, probably don't even like each other very much, then of course those children think that it's something they did, or they're feeling unloved and unliked. Is it something they said that made their parents argue? You know, this is very common in children, and all they want to do is want their parents back together in that happy environment. So this is an absolutely fab book. Like I said, Dinosaur's Divorce, and it just talks about changing families, and it says about feelings. It talks about here, you know, sad, guilty, shame, confused, worried about who will take care of them, all those sort of things. And it's such a lovely book, and it talks about it's okay to cry. Crying can help make you feel better. It's okay to feel angry, you know, about getting those emotions out and how we can express those emotions in a safe way. And us as parents need to be teaching our children this, you know, because they may stamp their feet and have tantrums, but that's because they are too young to know how to regulate themselves. And us as adults, we need to step in and help them do that. So when they are angry, rather than us then being angry with them and shouting at them saying, don't be so angry, or stop crying. You know, I heard that a lot growing up. Stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about, which is quite a common thing. You know, many children, I'm sure, of my generation would hear that, and maybe children still do. But this is an amazing book. It talks about, as well, after the divorce, talks about the wedding, divorce, and then it talks about separate homes as well. So living with one parent and then visiting another parent, and knowing that you have those two special places to go to. And then taking special toys there, you know, maybe having teddies on each bed. And yeah, just making it your home as well, that other home, maybe your dad's home, making it your second home. Okay, and actually in the end it talks about how joyous they feel and lucky that they have two homes as opposed to one. So yeah, an amazing book there. Also, another one that I had in my collection was called Two Homes. And again, this talks about living separate from mum and dad. Also, I have got another book as well talking about mum and dad. I have got another book which talks about a child with two dads as well, but that could be another topic. But this is a really good one as well, Mum and Dad Glue. And this talks about the child, how all he wants is just to glue his parents back together, like you would if you broke a toy. You'd get the glue out and stick it back together and it would work again. You'd be able to play with this toy again. You know, you don't need to throw it away and disregard it. You've actually healed this broken toy. And this is what this child wanted to do, was to heal and stick his parents back together, which is really quite sad, but lovely as well, because, you know, some things are broken and can't fit back together. However, separated, they can then heal and fix, and, you know, the love is always there for the child. So I just think that these are so important for our children to know that they're not alone as well, and to have these amazing books out there is fantastic. So get searching, and it's a really good way to get your children through the breakups, the separations. And actually, even if you're living a happy relationship, these books are still good to read, because you're teaching the children that these things do happen in life. And sometimes if they come from a family that is solid and happy, which is amazing, that they may then go on to believe that that's how everyone's life is, that's how they should live their life as adults. So it's really important that they have a wider picture on what goes on with everybody in their surroundings, you know. Also, this is a really good one. Again, this is quite a sad one, and this is by Jane Evans. You may have seen her. She is a parenting trauma specialist, and she has appeared on Good Morning, and I think This Morning as well. And she's written as far as I know, 4 books, and I've got all 4 of them. One's about anxiety, one's about love, and the other one's about a parent who suffers from depression. But this one in particular is, how are you feeling today, baby bear? And this talks about baby bear who's living in a stormy home. And again, quite sad, but to the point, and also makes you realise that if you are a couple that are saying, let's stay together for the sake of our children or child, then this is really important that you have a look at these, or maybe have a read of these, buy these, because it's talking about baby bear hearing all those arguments when he's in bed. We as parents may feel that because our children are asleep in bed, that they may not be hearing the arguments and the fights and the spiteful language that's going on, and the communication. I mean, one of the things why I left my husband when my children were so young is because I thought it's now or never, because I felt that they were too young to witness anything. So I felt like I had to get out before they got older, if that makes sense. But maybe they did witness and I wasn't aware. But yeah, this talks about the little bear, mum and dad, and it goes on about in the evenings. Let me just show you this page. It's got here, you can see he's in bed, and then you've got crash, bang, whoosh, all those noises going on downstairs, which are the parents, you know, having a fight or throwing things around. And again, baby bear talks about the feelings, you know, sad, worried, frightened, something else. And and you can see that he's crying there. So yeah, please go and have a little search and build up your little library of books for your children so that they can learn through these books, especially if you find it hard to talk to them about it. But if you do talk to them about it, you've also got these books as a little backup, and that's just a few examples of mine. I mean, there's loads out there that you can tap into, and I suggest yeah, happy reading to you. And you know, there's me always, I had these, like I said, a few years later, and we don't always practice what we preach, do we? But I hope that's a little lesson for you too. Okay, have a great day and speak to you soon.